All right, guys, today we're going to be focusing on some submission defense. The position is going to be from closed guard. The submission is going to be the arm bar, right? And we're going to be talking about how we can be layering our defense as we're learning jiu-jitsu, as we start from white belt, no information. We're building that core of your onion, right? And as you're learning jiu-jitsu, our goal here is to start stacking different layers of defense, right? When you talk about submission defense, or if I talk about defense of anything in particular, there's always stages to this. We have early defense, things that we can do to stop the progression of the position. We have our middle defense, right? You are right in the middle of that submission, right? And our late stage defense, that if things don't go well, right, we're getting pretty close to being submitted. So we're looking for those last kind of options for escape. So we're going to look at this arm bar from the guard as a whole, and we're going to talk about things that we want to be looking for in each one of these stages of our defense. So let's check this out. We're in the closed guard, right? It's very important here that I am active on my base. So when we sit, my knees are wide. A lot of times when we start instructional purposes wise, I'm sitting on my heels here, but in reality, my legs are like springs that really help me move myself around. As Ian is trying to break posture down, right, I need to be making sure I'm activating those hips. I don't want my shoulders getting too far in front of my hips. He's breaking that posture, right? That puts my arms out of position. So if I'm always focused on getting my hips underneath my shoulders, that makes my arms a whole lot stronger. Right? If they're moving you in any direction, always being ready to stay squared up with my partner. I don't want to allow my partner to start getting any sort of angles with their head or their hips, right? Getting off my center line. That's going to start making me unstable. So I always need to be framing and working myself back to the center. So if I can keep my opponent in front of me to help frame hips, that's going to be best. If I am also grip fighting in that same time, if he starts to reach for a hand, right, I am using my free hand always to kind of stop, right? I at least want to chalk it, get a push-pull going on. If he's getting grips, show me a sleeve grip, right? It's going to be hard for me to be just strictly pulling that back. I want to be thinking about grabbing onto his watch, circling towards those pinkies, right? Once again, having that push-pull effect, and I'm pushing with that top arm as I'm pulling that arm back to help me strip those grips. So if I can deny, right, the angle change of my opponent, him getting his his shoulders to the side, and I'm always squaring up, it's hard for him to hit an arm bar. If I can deny his grips and not allow him to control my arm, once again, these are all early things that we want to be focused on. I tell new students, like, this is my arm. I am going to refuse to let somebody control my own arm. Because the longer I let Ian control that, right, the harder this is going to get. See how he's starting to put his foot on my hip, right? He's trying to stop me from creating that angle. Or he's trying to stop me from taking that angle away. You see how with his foot on the hip, he's gaining control of my arm at the shoulder. He's got his hand right here at my elbow. It's hard for me to be pulling it back. I need to be working on sliding my leg back so I can get that foot off of my hip. That allows me to re-square back up. He places that foot on the hip. It's like a little chalk right there. So as I adjust my weight, I shift it back, I'm almost going to drop my hip underneath his foot so that way I can clear it. Okay? So as he progresses through this position, let's turn this way, he starts creating his angle. See how right now he has my arm really, really tight, and I cannot move my arm to my left bicep. But as he creates his angle change, right, he's bringing my arm to me. So you see how he's being successful in creating this angle, but I'm not going to let him straighten my arm now. Okay, so I grab my own bicep and I'm waiting for that leg to come around. As that leg's coming around, my goal is either to capture on the outside, right? Best case is I try to capture on the inside. Bring that leg back for me, bring it back. So as he swings it, my hand is open, right? My goal is to capture on the inside. That gives me a little bit of space. If you're unable to capture this leg, right, and he brings it tight, just go to the outside. You'll feel the ligaments in here, right? I want to be grabbing onto those, right? So I can be pulling nice and tight. I want a little bit of space because this leg is very important as far as pushing goes. You see how if he pushes my shoulder over my knee, I'm going to fall over. So immediately after I grab that leg, I got to be posting right here. Because as he bridges, as he's trying to straighten up, I need something to counter that push. I need my foot up here nice and strong. Right? As soon as I get that foot up there, right, it's important on this other side, my left knee, right, I want to make sure that I'm sliding that leg close to his hip. You'll see later on, I don't want him to be able to take that arm and underhook at the knee. Now he'll off balance,
So I'm sliding that knee really close to the hip. If I have to spin him in a circle, I will, to make sure that I can square up. I'm using my leg to drive back into me. You may have an opponent that is able to start extending you out, right? Go ahead and start extending your hips, bridging. Look how we start lifting up here. But I need to be driving in. And you'll start to feel a little bit of this push-pull going on. He'll be extending, he'll take a small little break, and that's when my elbow comes out a little bit. He might try again, he's extending a little bit, and that's when my elbow comes out again. Right? Push, pull until my elbow's all the way out. My goal here is to sandwich the leg. Because after I defend this armbar, I don't want to allow him just to let go and swing that leg back to the guard and reset that position. Or I don't want to get excited, pull the arm all the way out, and he transitions to his next submission, either omoplata or triangle. So if we can get this elbow out and control that leg, that's going to be best for us. Now that the guard's open and I've cleared my arm out of the way, plank position. Notice how my hips are going nice and low. From here, just walking around, chest forward, head up to help me pass. So, once we're in that position, I want to make sure that I'm taking that angle away. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be looking for the knee, okay? Even though he off balances doesn't mean my submission defense is over. So as he's progressing through this again, right, still looking for all the same things. He was just a little bit ahead of me here, and he was able to underhook my knee. So now what that's doing is that's stopping me from being able to take the angle away. You see how he's turning his hips in the way that he's moving his hips to the side, so that way I have no post over there. My right leg can't make it all the way over, and as he pushes, I'm going, right? So just rolling through. Okay, what I want to make sure that I'm doing is keeping my arm bent. So I'm in a worse position here. Right? He has his 2-on-1. It doesn't mean I can't get back though. Right? One way that I can get back, as long as I'm grabbing my bicep, grabbing on the leg, is if he has 2-on-1, I can use my own legs here to start generating reactions. Right? So if he holds on really tight and he doesn't address that, I can create my momentum and I can roll myself back up, back to this position. Okay? However, if he underhooks the leg, rolls me over, right? We want to use that as an opportunity to try and off balance. If he does look to grab, right, he does look to post, that's an opportunity here. There's still some space. I should be having control of this knee. Don't just lay back and allow the momentum to die. Start your rock. He posts. Oh, I can't make it. As we lay back, I'm going to be ripping that leg off of my head. Notice how I swap my grips from my bicep to my lapel as I'm stuffing this leg underneath my head, like I'm putting my head on a pillow. My goal here is to get my head and back on the other side. So using my feet here, I'm going to shoulder walk all the way to the other side. Imagine you're stapling this leg right here. I don't want to rush and try and turn in from here. If his leg is not stapled and I try and turn in, it's very easy for him to transition back to the armbar position, right? And now my arm is extended. So let's make sure you're grabbing your lapel, you're stapling that leg, use your feet, use those shoulders, the shoulder walk all the way over. Now, blocking that top knee. Start building some height. Turn this way for me. So once we're on our back, getting my elbow to the mat, build your height. I need this height on my elbow to help me pick my hips up and slide my knee back, creating just a little bit of a space so that way I don't just roll up directly into his guard and risk him starting that all over again. If we're coming back, if I'm defending this armbar, right, build your base. I don't always have to sit directly up into my opponent, hips up, slide my leg back, so now I can be a little bit better of a position to help me, okay? So, let's make sure that we are familiar with all of our options as far as early defense, grip fighting, being aware of the angle changes my opponent is trying to make, right? Once we're in that armbar position, the different configurations we have for our hands. In further videos, we'll talk about a lot of smaller details of what grips we can use and what the strength and weaknesses of those grips are, but this is a good pathway for you to start to learn and layer your defense for your arm bars.